Hello everyone, I'm Food for Dogs, and I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the many of you who sent me well wishes. I really appreciated it and it did cheer me up. I had posted here on the community tab that I had an old back injury that had flared up, which kept me from, many activities like sitting or standing for any length of time, and it's quite painful. So a lot of you here on YouTube and on Twitter inquired and sent wishes of speedy recovery. Thank you very much for that. It made me think back in time to when that injury occurred. So I travelled back in my memories a long, long way back to when I was 10 years old. And I sort of relived the whole incident. And I thought I would just share my story with you. I was 10 years old and transitioning from my primary school to the grammar school. That's what we called it. In Germany, it's called a Gymnasium, and I translate that as grammar school. You had to do an entrance exam to qualify for attending that rather prestigious grammar school. And I was the only child from my primary school who was accepted. So when I started out at that grammar school in a class of about 30 girls, it was an all-girls school, I obviously didn't know anybody. All the other girls were from different schools. I don't remember being particularly worried about that. I sat in class next to a girl who was very quiet, and we sort of struck up a friendship, and she became a good friend of mine, so that was nice. Now, this school had a policy that once a year, every class should have a big field trip. The school owned or leased a lodge far away, deep in the forest in a remote area, and we were all sent off for a 2-week period for various outdoors and indoors activities. No doubt the school also expected that we as the new class would be bonding. That was back then a very important concept in education in Germany. So we all set out with great excitement. 2 weeks is, of course, a long time to be away from home when you're 10 or 11. Most of the girls were slightly older than me because I came in sort of at the tail end of the age group, but yeah, 10 to 11. The one thing you have to understand about this time, so that would be like early 1960s, was that adults had almost complete authority over children. Their authority was not to be questioned. That was just absolutely not done. And that is important for what happened to me. So when we arrived at this beautiful old lodge deep in the forest, being 10-year-olds, of course, we all ran around like mad, completely wild with excitement, and we were just monkeying around, climbing around and doing all sorts of stuff. And I was a bit of a tomboy myself, so yes, I enjoyed all that. Unfortunately, on one of those escapades, I fell from a height onto a metal bar. I fell at a very unfortunate angle, and my lower back hit the metal bar smack on. In fact, I went straight onto my tailbone. There was a sickening crunch, and then a pain like lightning shot through me, and then I just went numb from the waist downward. And I remember lying there thinking, this is it. You're paralyzed. This is the end of your life as you know it. And I must have lain there for quite a while. Whether anybody noticed, I really can't remember all the details. I don't know how I managed to crawl back to the building, but when the teacher came into the room where we girls were sleeping and saw me lying on that bunk bed crying, she obviously asked what was going on. When I told her what had happened and said I literally can't walk anymore and it's so painful, I could see that she was panicking. She was elderly, and I don't think this one teacher who was supposed to be supervising us, I don't think she was coping that well. I reckon she panicked. And she flatly refused to believe me, called me a liar and a fake, and said, you join in all the activities, outdoors and indoors, like everybody else, no argument, and that's it. And I could see the other kids sort of thinking, oh, this sounds like a bit of trouble, and all sort of sidling away. And I had no idea what to do. You know, when you're 10 years old, I guess you don't. I did ask if she would ring my parents, and that was refused. So I was left having to endure the next 12 days or so, and it was pretty bad. The only person who believed me and stood by me and supported me was my friend from that class, the girl who sat next to me. She was called Dagmar, a lovely girl, and she helped me through those 12 days. She helped me with getting dressed in the morning, you know, washing and brushing my teeth. Dagmar stood by me, and when we had to go on those very, very long walks, because that was mandatory back then in German education, kids on these field trips had to walk at least 10 to 20 kilometres a day, and that was obviously torture for me. She assisted me, and for long stretches of those walks, she would carry me piggyback. Fortunately, Dagmar was quite a tall girl and had quite a strong build, so she was able to do that, and I would be sort of hanging on with, you know, my arms around her shoulders and neck. And that's how I got through those long 12 days. And I have never forgotten Dagmar's kindness. She had huge compassion and a big heart. And I don't think I'll ever forget that. So I got through those very dark days. I unfortunately don't have a photo of Dagmar. I looked through the few that I have left from my early childhood, and all I could find was a sort of group photo with many girls, and Dagmar wasn't there, so I've tried to crop that out, and it's very blurred and fuzzy, but there it is. I've put it up. So I would like to dedicate this video to Dagmar's memory. She passed away many years ago, so I feel it's okay talking about that now. So I feel like I learned two very important lessons rather early in my life. Adults are not faultless. They are not always reliable. I learned to not accept authority unquestioningly. from that moment on, that was simply not an option for me. And I haven't from that day onward. Authority is something that has to be earned, and respect has to be earned like anything else. It cannot be imposed from above. I have always resisted that, and I don't believe in it. The second lesson I learned was you only know your true friends when something very, very bad happens. And in my case, I was very lucky to have a true friend by my side. So, in closing, I would like to say whatever happens in your life, whatever happens, please remember to carry the good things always close to your heart. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Keep well. I'm Food for Dogs. Bye bye.